One common thing you want to add to your project is FAQ, frequently asked questions. And in this modern day, you would want to add a modern and clean FAQ. And that's what we'll be looking at in this lesson. In this lesson, I have created a simple and clean FAQ page, which you can embed on your page and also learn how to create your own. If you look at it, it is very clean. Right now, it's just HTML and CSS. In the later video, we'll be adding JavaScript so that if you toggle it, if you click, it's going to open and collapse each time you click. But right now, what we will build is something responsive enough so that when user visits on various screens, it's going to look nicer. And even when the view on the bigger screen, it's still going to look good. Credit to Bobo who designed the mockup, which you'll find the link in the video description. So let's dive into it. Alright, so let's write our HTML markup. To declare a markup, we just need to have the basic HTML header and the body. This is just a default footer. If we run our code and check, we're not going to see anything yet. So we need to declare our body structure so that when we are done, it looks something similar to this. Alright, to start with, I'm just going to declare the main tag. The main tag is going to have h1. If we check our readme, h1 tag is going to have a div and it's going to have a p tag and it's going to have a span tag. Let's see how we can combine all of them together. First, we need a title for the document, like a broader title that says frequently asked question. So we're just going to say h1, just going to say frequently asked questions. So if we refresh, you can see that we have our h1. The next thing is we need to have the div tag that is going to be a container for all the tests. So we're just going to declare the div tag is just going to have a class of FAQ. That's FAQ. Then inside this div is where we're going to have all our content. So the first content we need is the text itself. So we can just declare a div with, you can call it FAQ test. The next thing is to declare the h2, which is going to be the subheader for each of the FAQ. So we can just give that h2. Then we can just render our first title. So we're just going to come to this readme and copy the first title. Then paste in our h2. Then the next thing is we need to declare the paragraph tag. You can just use the p tag, then copy the text from the paragraph here so that we don't have to waste time. Then just paste it in. The next thing we want to have is the button. So we can use the span button, span as the button. Then we can just add the plus sign. So I'm just going to look out for plus sign. This is a top tile entity library. So I'm just going to look for plus. So let's look for the HTML code. We're just going to paste it in between. Now let's give it the class of btn, which is button. So if we check, you can see that everything is still running as we expect. So we can see the button here and we can see our first FAQ. So now that we are sure that we have first FAQ, the remaining thing now is to duplicate them. So before duplication, I always like to have comments on the beginning of my code and the end. So I'm just going to say control / to leave a comment, and I'm going to say this is going to be FAQ1. So let's just have it at the end of this, then have it at the beginning and at the end. So we can just add end at the end of this one, so that we know where it starts, where it ends. The next thing is So let's just duplicate this. What's left here is to duplicate. So we need to duplicate it into 5 places. So we know this is FAQ2. Then this is going to be end 2. Then we need to duplicate the third one. This is going to be FAQ3. The end is going to be 3 as well. Then we can duplicate this one as well and just give it FAQ4. The end is going to be FAQ4. Then the last one, which is going to be FAQ5, then the last end is going to be FAQ5. And if we refresh and you see, you can see that we have all the duplications, right? So maybe what we want to do now is to override the top by going to the README. By coming to the README, we are just going to copy title 2, then come to the first one and have the title 2, just to make sure that we have different headers. Then I can just come and copy the next one and just come to the HTML and paste it. And once I paste it, it's going to be there. The same thing we're going to do for all of them, just to make sure that we have something that looks unique instead of just having one title on all of them. And I'm just going to copy the last one. Then I'm just going to paste it. Okay, I think we've missed some parts. Let me just start from, okay, yeah, this is the last one. Yes, and if we check, we can see that we have different title or subtitle for each of the FAQ, and that makes it handy for us because we're just going to look at several lengths and we'll be able to determine what each of the lengths looks like. So let's dive into the styling. Alright, so let's move into the styling. So the style is already linked to the HTML. You can see the style at the top. So, and we have just basic styles for the footer, which you have here. That's why it's looking nicer than the rest. So let's just quickly add some style so that our HTML file or our FAQ will look somehow nicer. So what I want to do now, let me see if I can duplicate my screen so that I don't have to be navigating to see what is going on. Alright, so I'm just going to, alright, so now we can see completely what's going on in real time. So remember the HTML, we wrap everything inside the main div. So inside the main tag. So let's just quickly style the main tag. And our main tag is going to be max width of 800. So let's just target the main tag and just call it max width of 800 pixel. So it means that no matter how large the screen is, it's not going to be more than 800 pixel. Then let's set the margin to 5 viewports. That's view H. Then you can see that it's falling in the center. Then we want the auto left and right. So what this is doing majorly is whatever it is, we want space justified. Then we want 5 viewport at the top, then 5 viewport at the bottom. Okay, now that we are cool with that, so the next thing we want to do is to add padding. So like we want just some padding, not padding top, we want padding all over. So we're just going to say padding, let's try 20 pixel. You can see that you have enough space in between. That makes a lot of sense. Now that we're good with the main tag, the next thing we want to target is the H1, which is this title. So we want H1 to look differently. Then we're just going to say we want the font size to be something like 2.5 m. Then we want the font weight to be 400. Font weight to be like 400. We want it lighter. Then we want the margin bottom. We want space in between margin bottom to be like 40 pixel. Finally, we want the color to be something lighter gray, so it's just going to be like pound 70, 70, 70. Yeah, so that should give us lighter gray. The next we want to target is the H2, which is all of these subheaders. Now to target the H2, we're just going to say H2, then make our declarations. We're just going to say font size. Let's say font size is going to be 1.1 M. Then we can declare the font weight to be 4, font weight to be 400. Then we can also change the color. We can also change the color as well. So we can just say color to pound 5E, 5D, 5D, 5E, 5D, 5D. It should give us another shade of darker gray. Okay, now that we're very much cool with the subheader, we need to then target each of the container div, which is going to be FAQ. So let's just say target the FAQ with the period and Q. Then we're just going to make our declaration. First, we want padding. So we're just going to say padding. Then our padding should be 20 pixel top bottom and left right to be 30 pixel. Then after the padding, we want border all around. So we're just going to declare border. Then we want 1 pixel thick. Then we want solid. Then we want RGBA, which is going to be RGBA. So we want 0, 0, then 0.1. You can see very light gray, which is very cool. The next thing is we want the border radius. We can give that like 5 pixel. We want the color of the text. So the color is just going to be 79, or I think 979797. All right. Okay, so it's looking more like it. Now we want the position to be relative. Position is going to be relative. Making the position relative really is so that when we position the button absolute, it's not going where we don't want. It's just going to remain in this very circle. Now the next is we're just going to say line height. We want line height within the text. The line height can be 1.5 M. You can see line in between the text. So finally, for that, we just need margin in between, and we're going to give it margin top. So let's just say margin top to be 15 pixel. So we want space in between, and perfect. So we have that. The next thing we need to target is the text. We don't want the text to come to the end because we need to put our button. So let's make the text width to be like around 80%. So we're just going to target, so to do that, we just target this very div that is wrapping the text. So to come there, we're just going to say FAQ, then FAQ test. We need one T there. Then we're just going to say width should be 90%. You can see that we have space for the button. The next thing is we need to change the color of our button to match with the text. So we can just come here and just target the BTN. Remember, we gave the BTN class. Then we can just copy this same color for the H2. And the button will inherit the same color with the H2. Now that we have that, let's just check it on bigger screen. if you look at what we have now, is looking more like it. But the big question or the main challenge is we need to be able to position this button in a way that it's going to appear here. So let's come back here. Okay, so let's just say position absolute. Position is going to be absolute. You can see that we already have that position. Then we need to move it right. So let's say the right should be around 25 pixel. Then the top should be 35 pixel. You can see that we have our button well displayed. Okay, so the next is, let's increase the font weight to like 400. Then just make it thicker. Then we need the font size to be like 1.4 m. Just make it 1.4 m. You can see that it's a bit bigger. Okay, so now we need to change the button of this first one to be like minus. So let's look for the minus button. Should be at the bottom here. So let's just take this one and replace it for the first tag, which is going to be this one. So we're just going to replace it. So this should give us minus for the first one, just like we have it in the sample that we are designing from. There are just a few more tasks. We need to be able to change the color of this top one. The first, so when the tab is open, the color should change, and when it's closed, the color should change, and the icon as well should change. So we need to be able to do that. So we're just going to add open class here, open class in the first one. Then when we come back here, let's just leave a comment that says we want to hide p tag, okay. So now that we have that, what we can then do, we can say for every FAQ with the open class, then we want to do something to the h2. So let's change the color to, the color is just going to be #00848, then F. You can see that only the first one with the class of open, that the color change. Even if we copy the open class and just bring it here and save, you can see that the second one too will carry that, but we just want that effect on the first one. So now that we have that declared, we also need to hide the p tag on each of the FAQ. So we're just going to say FAQ, then we need to have period before that. So for every p tag inside the FAQ, we want to say display none. So we're hiding all of them. But then we can then say for every FAQ with the open class that has p, we want to display block. You can see, so we have display block. So this is how we're going to use JavaScript to add the class to each of the elements when we get to that segment. Okay, now that that is done, what we need to do now is to also change the color of our button. So the same way, we need to change the color of our button to the same color with the H2. So we just need to do the same thing here. Just copy this and target the BTN. So it's just going to be BTN. Then just change the color. If you check it, you can see that it is carrying the color. And if we check our project in a bigger screen, you can see that clearly we're able to achieve all of that. And if you resize it, everything should still work perfectly. Even on mobile, you can see that we have a very classy design on mobile and is responsive to screen. And that's how we wrap it up for this lesson. If you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media handle so that you'll be notified every time we release new updates. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one.